Good morning, students. Today we come to the final part of Dream Children, a Reverie. Hope you are reading the textbook. I have finished almost 3/4 of the essay. The first part we discussed how he starts narrating the stories of this mansion in Norfolk. About he gives a detailed description of this mansion in Norfolk, the story of children in wood, and in the latter part of that lecture we discussed the character of this. There is this portrayal of Mrs. Field, who is the grandmother of Charles Lamb and great grandmother of these two children, Alice and John. Alice and John, these are the two little ones of Charles Lamb. And here, when he narrates these incidents from his past, he gets the reaction of these two children. And then we continued in the second lecture talking about the holidays he spent in Norfolk, how he used to spend the whole day in midst of all those old busts of 12 Caesars, all those great halls with all those worn out hangings, fluttering tapestry, and how he found pleasure in moving idly through the spacious gardens. And he says that I found more pleasure in these busy, idle diversions rather than indulging in all those common baits, which usually children find enjoyable. And here he gets the reaction of John. Here we stopped the last lecture. In this lecture, we will be dealing with the last part in which he discusses about his brother John, and in the final part, in the latter part of this lecture, you will understand why he used this title Dream Children. The title is Dream Children, a Reverie. We get an explanation for the title in the last part. So girls, we will begin here. We stopped here talking about all those things in the garden, and at the end we get the reaction of John. Here John slyly deposited back upon the plate a bunch of grapes, which, not unobserved by Alice, he had meditated dividing with her, and both seemed willing to relinquish them for the present as irrelevant. When they understood the nature of their father, they had a similar reaction. They just relinquished all those fruits, especially grapes, which they thought they will divide between each other. And at the end of the story, where he narrated his busy idle diversions in the garden, they thought it is appropriate to relinquish it, to give it up. And here he continues. Then, in a somewhat a more heightened tone, I told how, though their great grandmother Field loved all her grandchildren, yet in an especial manner she might be said to love their uncle John L. He continues, he says that this grandmother Field loved every grandchildren alike. As I said earlier, these grandchildren used to spend their vacations in Norfolk. And this grandmother treated them alike. But she had a special concern, special love, affection for this brother, John L. John L is actually John Lamb. If you know the biography of Charles Lamb, I have discussed in the biography of Charles Lamb that John Lamb, passed away in his youthful years. So that is Brother John. And here we get a description of Brother John. John L., he was a handsome and courageous youth. While, as we discussed in the last lecture, we discussed the nature of Charles Lamb, he loved spending time alone in that garden, in the solitary corners of that garden. While he used to spend his time in that solitary corners, his brother, he was an adventurous person. He was so handsome and a spirited youth, and he was like a king to the rest of us, an adventurous person. And how did he spend his vacation there? ചാൾസ് ലാംബ് അവിടെ ഒറ്റയ്ക്ക് ഈ പറയുന്ന ഗാർഡനിൽ ഒറ്റയ്ക്ക് ഇരിക്കുക എന്നുള്ളതിലാണ് കൂടുതൽ സന്തോഷം കണ്ടെത്തിയിരുന്നെങ്കിൽ ബ്രദർ ജോൺ നേരെ തിരിച്ചായിരുന്നു. He was an adventurous person, and during their vacation there, when he goes there, he would mount the most mettlesome horse. He will choose a strong horse and make it carry half over the country in a morning and join the hunters where there were any out. And yet he loved the old great house and gardens too, but had too much spirit to be always penned up within their boundaries. And how their uncle grew up to a man's estate, as brave as he was handsome, to the admiration of everybody, but of their great grandmother Field most especially. So he was an adventurous person. He would mount a mettlesome, a strong horse, and he will make that horse carry him half the country, that too early morning. And if he finds any hunters, he will join that gang too. So imagine how adventurous this person was. Though he loved this mansion and the gardens there, he had the spirit which couldn't be confined within the boundaries of that garden or that mansion. His spirits were soaring high, a highly spirited person, highly energetic person. His spirits couldn't be confined within the boundaries. That is said, there too much spirit to be always penned up within their boundaries. ഈ പറയുന്ന മാൻഷൻ്റെ ഉള്ളിൽ മാൻഷനെയും അതിൻ്റെ ഗാർഡൻസിനെയും എല്ലാം ഇഷ്ടമായിരുന്നെങ്കിലും അയാളുള്ള ആ ഒരു എനർജറ്റിക് സ്പിരിറ്റ് അതിൻ്റെ ഉള്ളിൽ കൺഫൈൻ ചെയ്യാൻ പറ്റാത്തത്രയുമായിരുന്നു. ഒരു അഡ്വഞ്ചറസ് സ്പിരിറ്റ് ആയിരുന്നു. അതുകൊണ്ട് തന്നെ he would mount the strongest horse, and even sometimes he joined all those hunters. And then Charles Lamb narrates a special incident, how he understood this brother John. He was a very considerate person. He says, he used to carry me upon his back when I was a lame-footed boy, for he was a good bit older than me, many a mile when I couldn't walk for pain, and how in after like he became lame-footed too, and I did not always, I fear, make allowances enough for him when he was impatient and in pain, nor remember sufficiently how considerate he had been to me when I was lame-footed. So here he remembers a particular incident. Charles Lamb in his childhood had a small accident and he was lame-footed for a small period of time. And this considerate brother used to carry him on his back when Charles Lamb was in pain. And now he remembers that incident with lot of pain, because he feels so guilty that he couldn't reciprocate that consideration he had once got from his brother. He narrates another incident when this brother John, lost his limbs to a great accident. And he says that I fear I did not make allowances when he was impatient and in pain. I couldn't understand his pain. Think about a person like that, an adventurous person whose spirit couldn't be confined within the boundaries of a house, and that person losing his limb. How tragic it would be. Here, Charles Lamb feels such guilty because he couldn't reciprocate what he had received from his brother. In a small accident, he became lame footed and his brother used to carry on his back. And later, when his brother became lame footed, and that too permanently, he lost his limb permanently. Charles Lamb says that I couldn't understand his impatience, his pain. So he feels such guilty remembering that. I did not always, I fear, make allowances enough for him when he was impatient and in pain. എന്നോട് കാണിച്ച ആ സ്നേഹം എനിക്ക് തിരിച്ചു കൊടുക്കാൻ പറ്റിയില്ല. കാരണം എനിക്കത് മനസ്സിലായില്ല. ആ വേദനയും ആ ഒരു ഇംപേഷ്യൻസ് എങ്ങനെ വന്നു, ക്ഷമ ഇല്ലായ്മ എങ്ങനെ വന്നു. ഈ പറയുന്ന അഡ്വഞ്ചറസ് ആയിട്ടുള്ള ഒരാൾക്ക് കാല് നഷ്ടപ്പെടുക എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് എന്തുമാത്രം ഫ്രസ്ട്രേറ്റഡ് ആവും ആ മനുഷ്യൻ. അത് എനിക്ക് മനസ്സിലാക്കാൻ പറ്റിയില്ല എന്നാണ് ചാൾസ് ലാംബ് പറയുന്നത്. ആൻഡ് ലേറ്റർ ദിസ് ബ്രദർ പാസ്ഡ് അവേ. And look at those sentences. How, when he died, though he had not been dead an hour, it seemed as if he had died a great while ago. Such a distance there is between life and death. So that is actually a universal statement about life and death. He combines three ideas. ആ ഒരു സെൻറ്റൻസ് നോക്കുക. ആ സെൻറ്റൻസിൽ തന്നെ ചാൾസ് ലാംബിൻ്റെ എസ്സേയിലുള്ള ആ ഒരു ബ്യൂട്ടി മുഴുവനുണ്ട്. He talks about death, life and death, three different sentences, but it has one meaning. He says, how, when he died, though he had not been dead an hour. Third one, it seemed as if he had died a great while ago. First one, he talks about the death of John Lamb, and he says that though he had not been dead an hour, which means his memories are still fresh. He is still alive in our memories, in our hearts. And it seemed as if he had died a great while ago. It means that the death of John Lamb has created a great void in their lives. ആദ്യത്തേത് മരിച്ചു, രണ്ടാമത്തെ ഒരു മണിക്കൂർ പോലും മരിച്ചു എന്ന് തോന്നുന്നില്ല, മൂന്നാമത്തത് വർഷങ്ങളായി മരിച്ചു പോയതുപോലെ തോന്നുന്നു. മൂന്ന് കാര്യങ്ങൾ, മൂന്നും ഡിഫറെൻ്റ് ആണെന്ന് തോന്നും. പക്ഷേ it conveys this affection Charles Lamb has for this brother. First one, he passed away. Second one, he is not dead an hour. That means his memories are still alive. Third one, he says that he had died a great while ago. That is, his death has created a great void. So that, he says, is the distance between life and death. Life and death. ജീവനും മരണത്തിനും ഇടയിലുള്ള ഡിസ്റ്റൻസ്, അതാണ് ജീവിതത്തിനും മരണത്തിനും ഇടയിലുള്ള ഡിസ്റ്റൻസ്. And now I miss him a lot. He continues, he says that how I bore his death as I thought pretty well at first, but afterwards it haunted and haunted me. When he was dead, I thought I could accept that death. I bore his death. ഇല്ലേ, നമ്മളുടെ ഒരു when someone dear to us passes away, we feel like we can accept that death. But later, It is because we think that we can accept that death because we become numb. And later, that reality dawn upon us. And we start missing that person. That reality start hurting us. It starts haunting us. He says that I bore his death and I thought I could handle it pretty well. ഒരാൾ മരിക്കുമ്പോൾ നമ്മൾ ആ സിറ്റുവേഷൻ നമ്മൾ ഹാൻഡിൽ ചെയ്യാൻ പറ്റുമെന്ന് വിചാരിക്കും. പക്ഷേ ലേറ്റർ ഓൺ, after 2 or 3 days, we'll understand that great void. He says, I did not cry or take it to heart as some do. And as I think he would have done if I had died, yet I missed him all day. I missed his kindness, I missed his crossness, and wished him to be alive again, to be quarreling with him, or we quarrelled sometimes rather than not having again, and was as uneasy without him as he, their poor uncle, must have been when the doctor took off his limb. He says that now I miss him all day. I miss everything related to him, even if it is kindness, even if it is anger. Crossness is anger. I missed everything which 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 attached me to him. Though we quarreled with each other, I even missed that. And he says that I just want him back. I can't now. I can't accept the fact that he's gone. I want him back. And I feel so uneasy without him. It is so difficult to survive without him. And now I understand how uneasy he was to survive without his limb. എൻ്റെ ചേട്ടൻ്റെ കാല് പോയപ്പോൾ ഉണ്ടായ അത്രമാത്രം ഡിഫിക്കൽട്ടി ഇപ്പോൾ എനിക്ക് ചേട്ടൻ ഇല്ലാത്തപ്പോൾ തോന്നുന്നു. I missed him all day. And he talks about these incidents. As I said earlier, this is a narration to his children, and he gets the reaction of children. So this is such a tragic incident in the life of Charles Lamb. So he is narrating this tragic incident to little children. കുട്ടികളോടാണ് പറയുന്നത്. അപ്പോൾ അവരെന്തുമാത്രം അത് കേൾക്കുമ്പോൾ വിഷമം ഉണ്ടാവുന്നു, അതാണ് അടുത്തതിൽ കാണിക്കുന്നത്. Here the children fell a crying and asked if their little mourning which they had on was not for Uncle John, and they looked up and prayed me not to go on about their uncle. They started crying and they begged Charles Lamb not to continue with the story of brother John. Rather than, he says, children asked him to tell them some stories about their pretty dead mother. ഞങ്ങൾക്ക് ഈ പറയുന്ന സങ്കടകരമായ കഥകൾ കേൾക്കണ്ട, അങ്കിളിൻ്റെ കഥകൾ കേൾക്കണ്ട. Better tell us about the stories of our beautiful mother. This is what children want. And now, from their own, he starts. So we have reached the final part of this essay. The children ask him to tell the stories of their mother. Here he presents another character. It is Alice W.N. There is something missing in between. Alice W.N. is actually Alice Winterton. The reference here is to Anne Simmons. Anne Simmons is the lady whom he quoted for around 7 years and without success. ഈ പറയുന്ന കഥ ഞാൻ ബയോഗ്രഫിയിൽ പറഞ്ഞിരുന്നു. ആൻ സിമൺസ് എന്ന് പറയുന്ന ഒരു സ്ത്രീയായിട്ട് he was in love. At the final stage, Anne Simmons completely rejected him. And that caused great pain for Charles Lamb. Anne Simmons reject ചെയ്തതിൻ്റെ പ്രധാന കാരണം it was the strain of madness running in their family. പക്ഷെ പറഞ്ഞ കാരണം വേറെയായിരുന്നു, ദാറ്റ് ഷീ ഹാഡ് ടു ലുക്ക് ആഫ്റ്റർ ഹർ മദർ എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞ് ഈ പറയുന്ന ചാൾസ് ലാംബിനെ ഒഴിവാക്കുന്നു. അപ്പോൾ ഈ ആലിസ് വിൻറ്റർട്ടൺ ഇസ് മോഡൽഡ് അപ്പോൺ ആൻ സിമൺസ്. He continues, then I told how for 7 long years, in hope sometimes in despair, yet persisting ever, I quoted the fair Alice Winterton, W.N. And as much as children could understand, I explained to them what coyness and difficulty and denial meant in maidens. Then I started narrating the story of their pretty mother, Alice Winterton, and I told them that we were in love for 7 long years. And I explained to them as much as children could understand. കുട്ടികളോട് പറയാൻ പറ്റാവുന്ന അല്ലെങ്കിൽ അവർക്ക് മനസ്സിലാക്കാൻ പറ്റാവുന്ന അത്രയും രീതിയിൽ ഞാൻ പറഞ്ഞു കൊടുത്തു. എന്തൊക്കെ? about her coyness, about her difficulty and denial which you see in maidens, ആ ഒരു ഷൈനസ്, ഈ പറയുന്ന ഒരു മെയ്ഡൻ ആയിട്ടുള്ള ഒരു അൺമാരീഡ് വുമണിൽ കാണുന്ന ആ ഒരു ഡിഫിക്കൽട്ടി, അതായത് ഒരു നാണം കൊണ്ടുവരുന്ന ഒരു ഡിഫിക്കൽട്ടി, ആ ഒരു ഡിനയൽ, എന്ത് ചോദിച്ചാലും ഇല്ല, ഇങ്ങനെ മലയാളത്തിൽ പറയുകയാണെങ്കിൽ നഖങ്ങൾ കൊണ്ട് ഇങ്ങനെ ചിത്രം വരയ്ക്കുന്ന ആ ഒരു സ്ത്രീ, അത്രയും ഷൈ ആയിട്ടുള്ള ഒരു മെയ്ഡൻ. അപ്പോൾ അത് കുട്ടികൾക്ക് മനസ്സിലാകുന്നുള്ള രീതിയിൽ അവർക്ക് മനസ്സിലാകുന്നുള്ള രീതിയിൽ പറഞ്ഞു കൊടുത്തു. And then suddenly something happens. He continues, when suddenly turning to Alice, the soul of the first Alice looked out at our eyes with such a reality of representment that I became in doubt which of them stood there before me, or whose that bright hair was. And while I stood gazing, both the children grew gradually fainter to my view, receding and still receding, till nothing at last but 2 mournful creatures were seen in the uttermost distance, which without speech strangely impressed upon me the effects of speech. So when he was narrating the story of Alice Winterton, when he talked about how he courted this lady for 7 long years, sometimes in hope, sometimes in despair, and suddenly something happens. He sees the first Alice, that is this Alice Winterton, in the eyes of the second Alice. Second Alice is actually the child Alice to whom he is narrating the story. And he sees that there is some kind of a reality of representment. And he becomes completely surprised. He says that I became in doubt which of them there stood before me. ഈ പറയുന്ന ആലിസിൻ്റെ കണ്ണുകളിലേക്ക് നോക്കി ഞാൻ അവരുടെ അമ്മയായ ആലിസിനെ കുറിച്ച് പറഞ്ഞു കഴിയുമ്പോഴേക്കും പെട്ടെന്ന് അവളുടെ കണ്ണുകളിൽ, ഈ പറയുന്ന ആലിസ് എന്ന് പറയുന്ന പെൺകുട്ടിയുടെ കണ്ണുകളിൽ ഫസ്റ്റ് ആലിസിൻ്റെ മുഖം ഞാൻ കണ്ടു. The soul of the first Alice looked out at her eyes with such a reality of representment, and I became in doubt. I can't decipher. I couldn't understand which one is really sitting before me, whose bright hair this was, whether it is the first Alice, that is Alice Winterton, or the child, the junior Alice. And later he understands this 2 mournful creatures, 2 sad-looking, mournful is sad-looking creatures growing gradually fainter to my view. They grew gradually fainter to his view. And Their images started receding till he could see nothing but two sad features, two sad creatures which appeared to be saying. And this is the most touching lines in this essay, the most poignant lines. ഈ എസ്സേയുടെ ഏറ്റവും ടച്ചിങ് ആയിട്ടുള്ള ലൈൻസ് ആണ് ഇനി നിങ്ങൾ വായിക്കാൻ പോകുന്നത്. Where these two sad looking creatures, two mournful creatures, പെട്ടെന്ന് കഥകൾ കേട്ടുകൊണ്ടിരുന്ന ഈ രണ്ട് കുട്ടികളിൽ ഈ ചാൾസ് ലാമിൻ്റെ മുമ്പിൽ നിന്ന് ഇങ്ങനെ മാഞ്ഞു പോകുന്നത് പോലെ തോന്നും. ആ രണ്ട് മുഖങ്ങൾ അയാളോട് എന്തോ പറയുന്നത് പോലെ തോന്നും. എന്താണ് പറയുന്നത്? We are not of Alice, nor of thee, nor are we children at all. The children of Alice called Bertram father. We are nothing, less than nothing, and dreams. We are only what might have been, and must wait upon the tedious shores of Lethe millions of ages before we have existence and a name. So, as I said earlier, this is the most touching lines in this essay. These children say that we are not of Alice. ഞങ്ങൾ ആലിസിൻ്റെ കുട്ടികളല്ല. Nor of thee. നിങ്ങളുടെയും മക്കളല്ല. Nor are we children at all. ഞങ്ങൾ കുട്ടികളെയല്ല. ആലിസിൻ്റെ കുട്ടികൾ, the children of Alice called Bertram father, because Alice Winterton, as I said earlier, the reference is to Anne Simmons. Anne Simmons married Bertram. In real life, Alice married Bertram എന്ന് പറയുന്ന ഒരാളെയാണ് കല്യാണം കഴിച്ചത്. Bertram. He was a broker in London. And children of Alice or Anne Simmons would be naturally the children of Bertram, not of Charles Lamb. And those sad looking creatures continue. We are nothing less than nothing, just dreams. And there comes the significance of this title, Dream Children. The whole story was narrated to these two children, two dream children. It was just a dream of Charles Lamb. Just a daydream. That is why it has the title A Reverie. And these two children, they are nothing but his dream. And these two dream children continue. We are only what might have been. ഞങ്ങൾ ഇനി എന്താകുമായിരുന്നോ അതാണ്. We are now nothing. And this is one of the beautiful images in this essay. This is the image I like the most. ചാൾസ് ലാമ്പിൻ്റെ എസ്സേയിൽ എനിക്ക് ഏറ്റവും ഇഷ്ടപ്പെട്ട വരികളാണത്. That is, we are only what might have been, and must wait upon the tedious shores of Lethe millions of ages before we have existence and a name. So the reference is to a myth where it is said that all those unborn children, ജനിക്കാനിരിക്കുന്ന കുട്ടികൾ, they wait upon the shores of Lethe. Lethe എന്ന് പറയുന്ന സ്വർഗത്തിലുള്ള ഒരു റിവറിൻ്റെ അങ്ങേക്കരയിൽ ഈ ജനിക്കാനിരിക്കുന്ന കുട്ടികളെല്ലാം വെയിറ്റ് ചെയ്യുന്നു. ആൻഡ് they are waiting for their boats to arrive. അവരുടെ സമയമാകുമ്പോൾ, അവർ ജനിക്കാനുള്ള സമയമാകുമ്പോഴേക്കും അവർ കൊണ്ടുപോകാനുള്ള ആ ഒരു ബോട്ട് വരുന്നു. ആൻഡ് ദാറ്റ് ഈസ് ഹൗ ദീസ് ചിൽഡ്രൻ ആർ ബോൺ ഓൺ എർത്ത് എന്നാണ് പറയുന്നത്. സോ ദാറ്റ് ഈസ് ആക്ച്വലി എ ബ്യൂട്ടിഫുൾ ഇമേജ്. All those unborn children waiting at the shores of Lethe millions of ages until they have an existence and a name. അപ്പോൾ ഇവർ പറയുന്നത്, ഞങ്ങൾ ഇപ്പോഴും we are still waiting at the tedious shores of Lethe. We don't have an existence. We don't have a name. ആലിസിന് മക്കളുണ്ട്, പക്ഷെ അവർ ബെട്രാമിനെയാണ് ഫാദർ എന്ന് വിളിക്കുന്നത്. ഞങ്ങൾ We are just your dream. And these lines show how much he yearned for or desired for a married life with a wife, with a family, with children. How he desired for a normal life, നോർമൽ ഫാമിലി ലൈഫ്. ചാൾസ് ലാമ്പിന് എന്തുമാത്രം ഒരു ഭാര്യയും മക്കളുമായിട്ട് സുഖമായിട്ട് ജീവിക്കുന്ന ആ ഒരു എത്രമാത്രം ആഗ്രഹം ഉണ്ടായിരുന്നു എന്നാണ് ഈ വരികൾ കാണിക്കുന്നത്. അതിൻ്റെ ട്രാജഡി എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് ചാൾസ് ലാമ്പിൻ്റെ ജീവിതകാലത്തിൽ ഒരിക്കലും നടക്കാൻ സാധ്യതയില്ലാത്ത കാര്യങ്ങളായിരുന്നു. ആൻഡ് ഹൗ മച്ച് ഹി ഏൺഡ് ഫോർ. ദാറ്റ് ഈസ് വൈ ഹീസ് called the most lovable in English literature, the most delicate. ഏറ്റവും ഡെലിക്കേറ്റ് ആയിട്ടുള്ള സോൾ എന്നാണ് ചാൾസ് ലാമ്പിനെ അറിയപ്പെടുന്നത്. ബാക്കി എല്ലാ റൈറ്റേഴ്സിനെ കുറിച്ച് പറയുമ്പോഴും അവർക്ക് ദേ ഹാഡ് ദിസ് കോമ്പറ്റേറ്റീവ് സ്പിരിറ്റ്, മറ്റൊരാളുമായിട്ട് കോമ്പറ്റ് ചെയ്യുന്നുള്ളൊരു സ്പിരിറ്റ് ഉണ്ടായിരുന്നു, അവരുടെ ആ ഒരു പൊസിഷൻ മെയിൻറ്റെയിൻ ചെയ്യണമെന്നുള്ളതുണ്ടായിരുന്നു. പക്ഷേ ഇവിടെ വി സീ എ പുവർ സോൾ, എ ഫ്രജൈൽ സോൾ. His only wish was to have a normal life, but he was denied that. And how he presents all those tragic incidents in a beautiful manner in his essays. How, as I said earlier, how he intermingles humor along with pathos. Pathos is all those melancholy. ഇവിടെ ഹ്യൂമർ എന്ന് പറയുന്ന എലമെൻറ്റും ഉണ്ട്, മെലങ്കളി, പേത്തോസ് എന്ന് പറയുന്ന എലമെൻറ്റും ഉണ്ട്. So I will read these last lines once more. That sums up the title of the essay, Dream Children a Reverie. All this time he was narrating all those incidents related to the mansion, about his grandmother, about his vacation, about his brother. He was narrating all these things to his dream children. എനിക്ക് കുട്ടികൾ ഉണ്ടായിരുന്നെങ്കിൽ ഞാൻ അവരോട് എന്തൊക്കെ പറയുമായിരുന്നു എന്നൊരു ചിന്തയിൽ നിന്നാണ് ഈ ഒരു എസ്സേ വന്നിരിക്കുന്നത്. ആൻഡ് ദാറ്റ് ആഡ്സ് ബ്യൂട്ടി ടു ദിസ് പീസ്, ടു ദിസ് എസ്സേ. ആൻഡ് ദ മോസ്റ്റ് ബ്യൂട്ടിഫുൾ ലൈൻസ് ആർ ദീസ്: We are not of Alice nor of thee, nor are we children at all. The children of Alice called Bertram father, we are nothing, less than nothing, and dreams. We are only what might have been, and must wait upon the tedious shore of Lethe millions of ages before we have existence and a name. And here ends the essay. And immediately awaking, I found myself quietly seated in my bachelor armchair, where I had fallen asleep with the faithful Bridget unchanged by my side. But John L. or James Elia was gone forever. Suddenly, he wakes up from his daydream, that is his reverie, and he sees himself sitting in a bachelor armchair. ഇവിടെ ബാച്ചിലർ ആംചെയർ എന്ന് എടുത്തു പറയുന്നുണ്ട്. And he sees faithful Bridget by his side. Originally that is his sister Mary Lamb, who is there unchanged by my side. എൻ്റെ അരികിൽ നിന്ന് ഒരിക്കലും മാറാതെ. That shows the strong affection between this brother and sister. But John L., his brother, who is presented also as James Elia, was gone forever. And we know the past story of his death. So here he ends the essay. He wakes up in his bachelor chair, where he had fallen asleep and had been daydreaming, and he finds only Bridget by his side. Everything other than Bridget was just a dream. Here ends the essay. In the next class, I will give you a critical summary of this whole essay. I hope this essay is clear. We will be meeting for a live class. where I will give out all those critical summary of this essay. Please go through this essay. Please try to make notes on the major points discussed in this lecture. If you have any doubts, we will clear it in our live class. Thank you, girls. Have a nice day.